You don't fail because you lack discipline. You fail because your discipline expires every morning. Most men wake up believing consistency is about effort, trying harder, pushing more, forcing themselves through resistance. That belief sounds logical. It's also the reason consistency never lasts, because effort runs out. Consistency does not collapse on hard days. It collapses on ordinary ones. Days with no pressure, no urgency, no consequences. Those are the days that quietly erase discipline. This is stillness and direction. If you're here looking for motivation, this will disappoint you. But if you want to understand why consistency keeps slipping away even when you know better, stay. And if this way of thinking resonates, like the video and subscribe, not for hype, but so you stay connected when motivation disappears again. Here's the truth most men never hear. Inconsistency is not laziness, it is decision fatigue. Every time you decide whether to act, you weaken consistency. You decide in the morning, you decide again at noon, again at night, and each decision resets discipline. Anything that must be redecided daily will eventually be abandoned. This is why men feel stuck in cycles. They start strong, they feel in control. They tell themselves this time it's different. Then the days feel normal. No resistance, no reward, no drama. And suddenly the rule feels optional. I'll do it later. Today doesn't matter. I've been consistent enough. That moment feels harmless. It isn't. That is where consistency dies. Not loudly, not dramatically, silently. The Japanese noticed this pattern centuries ago. They watched capable men fail not because they were weak, but because their discipline depended on how the day felt. So they asked a question no one else was asking. What kind of system works when nothing feels important? What survives boredom? What continues when no one is watching and no emotion is pushing you forward? The answer was not motivation. It was not willpower. It was structure. A system where action does not wait for desire, where consistency does not ask permission. This is why modern advice keeps failing you. Stay motivated, build habits, find your why. All of it assumes emotion will cooperate. It won't. Emotion is unstable by nature. The Japanese did not fight emotion. They removed it from command. They built consistency that functioned even when the mind was uninterested, even when boredom arrived, even when effort felt pointless. You've been trying to feel consistent. They built systems that did not require feeling anything at all. Until you understand this difference, you will repeat the same cycle. Start, fade, restart with guilt. This chapter isn't here to motivate you. It's here to remove the lie that effort creates consistency. It doesn't. Structure does. And in the next chapter, I'll explain why motivation isn't just unreliable, it is the main reason consistency collapses, and why every system built on motivation is guaranteed to fail. Motivation feels powerful. That's why most men trust it. It gives you energy. It gives you confidence. It makes you believe consistency is finally solved. And then it disappears. Not slowly, not politely. It vanishes without explanation. This is where most men get confused. They think motivation left because they did something wrong. They think they lost discipline. They think they need a new plan. None of that is true. Motivation failed because it was never designed to stay. The Japanese understood this long before modern psychology tried to sell motivation as a solution. Motivation is emotional fuel, and emotional fuel burns fast. It works best at the beginning. It collapses under repetition. That's why men feel unstoppable for a week and inconsistent for the next 3 months. This is not weakness, it's design. Consistency does not break on days that are hard. It breaks on days that feel the same. When nothing is exciting, when progress feels invisible, when effort no longer feels meaningful.
That's when motivation asks a dangerous question. Why am I doing this? The moment that question appears, consistency is already bleeding, because consistency cannot survive explanation. Every time you ask why, you invite emotion back into command, and emotion is unstable. The Japanese removed this problem completely. They did not try to manage motivation, they eliminated the need for it. This is the part modern men resist, because motivation feels personal. It feels human, it feels empowering, but it is unreliable. The Japanese believed something radical. If a system requires motivation, it is already broken. Why? Because motivation forces you to decide daily, and daily decisions exhaust discipline. You wake up and decide. You hesitate. You negotiate. Should I do it now? Later? Is today important enough? Each question weakens consistency. Jishudo closed that loop. Time was fixed. Action was fixed. Sequence was fixed. There was nothing to feel motivated about. You didn't act because you felt ready. You acted because it was time. This is why the system feels cold at first. There is no emotional buildup, no internal encouragement, no sense of I want to, just action. And this is where many men quit, because they confuse lack of motivation with lack of meaning. The Japanese never made that mistake. They believed meaning comes after repetition, not before it. You don't feel aligned and then act. You act and alignment follows. Modern systems reverse this order. They tell you to feel inspired first. That guarantees collapse because inspiration fades. Structure does not. Motivation gives you speed. Jishudo gives you continuation. Speed looks impressive. Continuation changes your life. This chapter should make you uncomfortable because it reveals why you keep restarting, not because you lack discipline, but because you keep trusting something that cannot survive boredom. In the next chapter, I'll show you what discipline looks like when emotion is completely removed from command, a system that works best when you're tired, uninterested, and bored. Most men can't tolerate it. That's exactly why it works.
The Japanese system had a name for what most men never built. Jishudo. It does not mean motivation. It does not mean willpower. It means self-governed path. A way of living where action does not wait for emotion. This is where modern discipline collapses. Most men believe discipline means pushing themselves when they don't feel like acting. The Japanese believed the opposite. If you still feel resistance, the system is incomplete. Jishudo was built on one assumption that sounds brutal. Your emotions are not qualified to lead, not because they are bad, but because they are inconsistent. So the Japanese removed emotion from command entirely. Jishudo does not ask how you feel. It does not care if you are tired. It does not wait for alignment. It operates regardless. This is why it feels extreme at first. There is no emotional buildup, no internal hype, no self-talk, just execution. This is the moment many men quit. If this feels cold or mechanical, this is where inconsistent men leave, because they mistake emotionless action for emptiness. It isn't. It is clarity. Modern men exhaust themselves deciding over and over again. Should I do it now? Later? Tomorrow? Every question drains discipline. The Japanese decided once, then enforced the decision daily. Time was fixed. Action was fixed. Order was fixed. When the hour arrived, the body moved, automatically. This removed hesitation, and hesitation is what actually destroys consistency. Not difficulty, not workload, hesitation. Hesitation creates internal friction. Friction creates fatigue. Fatigue creates quitting. Jishudo eliminates hesitation. This is why the system survives boredom. There is nothing to debate. You don't wake up asking if you should act. You wake up knowing you will. This is deeply uncomfortable for modern men. They are trained to seek emotional permission. The Japanese denied permission entirely. They believed alignment follows action, never precedes it. Once action stabilizes, the mind adapts. Over time, something irreversible happens. Action stops feeling heavy. Routine stops feeling oppressive, because nothing inside you is arguing anymore. This is why Jishudo looks boring from the outside. No passion, no intensity, no visible struggle, just continuation. And continuation is what most men never achieve. This chapter should challenge your identity because it reveals a hard truth. If your discipline depends on feeling aligned, you will always be inconsistent. Jishudo demands alignment after action, not before it. You act first. Emotion adjusts later. In the next chapter, I'll explain why even this system can fail if boredom and fatigue are misunderstood. Because repetition is where discipline is truly tested, and where Jishudo reveals its most dangerous advantage.
This is where consistency is truly tested. Not when things are hard, but when nothing feels difficult at all. Boredom is the graveyard of discipline. Most men believe they quit because life gets overwhelming. In reality, they quit because life becomes repetitive. The same routine, the same actions, the same days. And suddenly the question appears, is this even doing anything? That question is lethal. The Japanese understood that boredom is not a side effect, it is the final filter. If a system cannot survive boredom, it was never built for permanence. Jishudo did not try to make repetition exciting. It did something far more effective. It made repetition non-negotiable. Modern systems try to entertain you. New routines, new challenges, new stimulation. The Japanese removed novelty entirely. Same time, same order, same execution, every day. This was not rigidity, it was protection. Protection from the moment boredom asks for permission. Because boredom only wins when choice exists. Maybe I'll skip today. I'll change it up. I'll do something else. Jishudo eliminates those options. There is nothing to change, nothing to optimize, nothing to debate. Just continuation. This is why boredom feels unbearable to modern men. They are addicted to variation. When variation disappears, motivation collapses. Jishudo never depended on motivation. It depended on correctness. You did not ask if you felt engaged. You asked if you were acting correctly. That single shift is why the system survives long timelines. Fatigue works the same way. When energy drops, modern discipline adjusts. Men shorten routines, lower standards, make exceptions. These exceptions feel reasonable. They are also how consistency dies. The Japanese assumed fatigue would arrive, so they designed the system to require minimal energy. Not minimal commitment, minimal decision-making. Posture remained correct, timing remained fixed, sequence remained unchanged. Effort could fluctuate, structure could not. This is why Jishudo works when you are tired. It does not ask you to push harder, it asks you to not change. That sounds simple, it is not. Because when boredom and fatigue arrive together, the mind looks for escape. Jishudo denies escape, not emotionally, mechanically. No inner argument, no justification, just execution. This is where most men fail. They try to outwork boredom. You can't. You must outlast it. And outlasting boredom requires removing choice. Choice is the doorway boredom uses. Close the door, and boredom loses power.
This chapter should change how you see consistency. Consistency is not about forcing yourself forward. It is about refusing to renegotiate backward. The Japanese did not chase progress, they protected continuation. That is why their consistency looked unnatural, and why most men never experience it. In the next chapter, I'll explain why even men who are consistent for years still end up quitting, and why the final collapse usually comes from a mistake they don't even realize they're making.
This is where discipline quietly betrays people. Not beginners, not lazy men, but the ones who were consistent for a long time. Most men believe quitting looks dramatic. Burnout, collapse, giving up. That's a lie. Quitting usually looks reasonable. I've earned flexibility. I've proven I can do this. I don't need to be so strict anymore. That thought is where consistency starts to die. The Japanese understood something most systems ignore. Consistency collapses the moment it becomes temporary in your mind. As long as you believe there is a future version of you that no longer needs discipline, you are already preparing to quit. This is why even disciplined men fail. They treat consistency like a phase, a season of effort, a period of control. They believe there will be a moment where discipline can relax. The Japanese rejected this idea completely. Jishudo was never something you did to reach another state. It was the state. There was no finish line, no graduation, no moment of, now I can ease up. Modern men burn out because they keep counting. Days, weeks, streaks, results. Counting creates pressure. Pressure demands reward. And when reward doesn't arrive fast enough, discipline feels pointless. So standards soften. Just a little. Later wake-ups, looser timing, skipped repetitions. Nothing extreme. But consistency doesn't break from one big mistake. It breaks from permission. Permission to adjust. Permission to relax. Permission to renegotiate. The Japanese removed permission entirely. They did not ask, how long must I do this? They asked, is this correct conduct? Correctness replaced duration. This eliminated the psychology of quitting, because you don't quit correctness, you violate it. And violation feels different than stopping. Stopping feels justified. Violation feels wrong. That difference matters. Modern discipline teaches you to stop. Jishudo teaches you to never violate form. This is why the system survives decades. No milestones, no celebrations, no emotional rewards, just continuation. From the outside, it looks joyless. From the inside, it is stable. Most men fail here because they secretly want relief. They want discipline to end. They want consistency to pay them back. The Japanese never expected payment. They believed consistency was the cost of being properly aligned with life. This chapter should unsettle you, because it exposes a hard truth. If you are waiting for the day discipline becomes optional, you are not building consistency. You are delaying quitting. The final chapter shows how Jishudo closes this loophole completely, how consistency stops feeling like effort, stops feeling restrictive, and becomes automatic. This is where inconsistency disappears, not because you fight it, but because it no longer makes sense. This is where Jishudo completes itself. Not when you feel disciplined, not when you feel proud, but when inconsistency no longer feels like an option. The Japanese understood something most men never reach. Consistency fails as long as it feels like something you are doing. Doing implies effort. Effort implies resistance. Resistance implies choice. And choice is where inconsistency survives. So Jishudo removes choice entirely. At this stage, you no longer wake up asking whether you will act. You already know. Not because you are motivated, but because acting incorrectly would feel wrong. This is the identity shift. Consistency stops being a behavior and becomes correct conduct.
You don't stay consistent, you simply don't violate form. That difference is everything. Modern men believe consistency should feel empowering, energizing, rewarding. The Japanese believed consistency should feel neutral. No excitement, no resistance, no emotional charge, just correctness. This is why outsiders misunderstand Jishudo. They expect intensity, they expect visible struggle, they expect obsession. Instead, they see something quieter. You act, you finish, you move on. No inner celebration, no frustration, no debate. This is not numbness, it is resolution. Once behavior stabilizes long enough, the mind adapts. It stops arguing, stops negotiating, stops offering excuses, because excuses no longer fit the identity. Skipping feels strange, delaying feels incorrect, inconsistency feels out of place. Not painful, just wrong. This is why Jishudo survives years, not because it pushes harder, but because it removes the mental friction that causes quitting. There is no end date, no finish line, no moment of relief waiting. And paradoxically, this removes pressure. You are no longer trying to maintain consistency. You are simply living inside it. This is the final truth. Consistency is not built through effort. It is enforced through identity. The Japanese did not ask how long discipline would last. They asked how a man should live when no one is watching and nothing feels urgent. Jishudo was their answer. Quiet, unimpressive, relentless. That is why most men never build it, and why the few who do are no longer worried about consistency at all. They solved it permanently.